Hello everyone, it's Mrs. Palermo. I'm going to make a quick video explaining today's lesson. I actually have to run to the urgent care kind of last minute. So I do have the notes on Google Classroom too, but I thought I would just go through and explain it as much as I can. So what we're doing today are relative frequencies. So to get relative frequencies, you just divide every number in this chart by the total. So our two-way table from yesterday, we're just like dividing everything by the total. So this looks familiar from yesterday's lesson. It's the same data about the superpowers. We're just going to take each number and then divide by 450 because that's the total number of students that they chose for this random sample. So to get this first number in the chart, I'm going to underline what I'm talking about. It's asking us to do the relative frequencies. And to do that, we just take each number in the chart divided by 450. So 49 divided by 450. It says to the nearest hundredth, so 2 decimal places. So grab a calculator if you don't already have one. And that is like 0.108, whatever. So about 0.11. Then take this number, which is 60, divided by 450. We're always going to divide for relative frequencies. You always divide by the total. I get about 0.13. Take 48, divide by 450. You get about 0.11, it would round to. Then take 1 divided by 450. That's going to be a really small number. It's about 0.002. So actually that would round to 0.00 or nothing. So on this one, I think I'm going to include one more decimal place. So I'm going to go to the thousands place. Take 70 divided by 450. It's about 0.16. Take 228 divided by 450. You get about 0.51. That number would actually be the same, and this is kind of explained on the top of your notes. But if I were to add all of these numbers that I'm highlighting in yellow together, it would give me this number that I'm highlighting in blue. So that would be another way of getting it, or at least checking your answer. So now, on this next row, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to take each number, 51 divided by 450. 0.11. 71 divided by 450. 0.16. 27 divided by 450. 0.06. 25 divided by 450. 0.06. 48 divided by 450. 0.11. 222 divided by 450. 0.49. Similarly, to get that 0.49 that I just wrote down, I did not mean to do that. Hold on, how do I undo? Okay, you could highlight, I'm going to highlight all the numbers I'm talking about. I could add all those together to check this. That should equal this blue number. Approximately. It honestly might be a little bit off because of rounding. So like if it equals 0.99, 0.98, 1 point, or anywhere close to that, I meant somewhere around 0.49. So it could equal 0.48, 0.5. It's just due to rounding, but it should be close to that. Now to get these bottom ones, you can sum the column. So in other words, add these two numbers together. 0.11 plus 0.11 is 0.22. Or you can take the number in that spot, which is 100 divided by 450. Now, due to rounding, they might be a little bit different. 100 divided by 450 is 0.22. So it did end up being the same. 131 divided by 450, 0.29. 75 divided by 450 is 0.17. 26 divided by 450, 0.06. And then I'm just circling them as I do them so I don't forget anything. 118 divided by 450 is about 0.26. So to get that last number, it should equal 1. So whether we add this way or this way, it should equal 1. Now, it might vary just a little bit because of rounding, but that should be 1 when you add those together. And 450 divided by 450 is also 1. So these are actually kind of nice because you can use them as like percentages if you kind of move the decimal place. So I'll show you what that means down here. It says, what is the joint relative frequency for females who selected invisibility? So what we're going to do is we're going to use our table. Joint relative frequency just means that it's a number in the main part of the chart, like not the total part. So females who selected invisibility. So I'm going to find the intersection of invisibility and females. just reading this chart, it's this number right here, that 0.11. So 0.11 is the joint relative frequency. And then it says interpret the meaning of this value, in other words, explain it. So we're going to say 11% of the total students in the survey are females who chose invisibility as their favorite superpower. Marginal relative frequency for freeze time. Marginal relative frequency always just means it's one of those like total numbers. So freeze time, you just go in the freeze time category, find the total, it's 0.29. So that's 0.29. Interpret the meaning. To change that to a percent, you always just kind of move the decimal place right 2 places, just like we did for 11. So it's 29% of the total students chose freeze time. Okay, so that's it for that page. If you missed anything, like I said, this is on Google Classroom, so you can look at the notes key. A conditional relative frequency is different. So for conditional relative frequencies, you're not always dividing by that 450, the total. So this is the same data. You're dividing by a specific total, either by row or column. And they'll tell you if you should divide by the row or the column. So this says, let's find the conditional relative frequencies by rows. You do need to know that rows go horizontally. So like a row goes this way, horizontally. So we want the total of the row is what we're dividing by. So to find these, for this first row, I'm going to highlight the first row in yellow. So because rows go horizontally, this yellow is the first row. I'm going to divide by the total of the first row, which is 228. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take every number in that row, divide by 228, and we're going to write down 2 decimal places. I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to do the first one with you. So 49 divided by 228 is about 0.21. I'm going to pause this for a minute and just fill in all the rest of them. So I want you to keep going. So take 60 divided by 228. I'll fill in this whole row, and then I'll restart the video. So these are the numbers that I got in that row. This one, I'm going to circle the one I'm talking about, was actually like it would round to 0.00, but I thought just for the sake of having a number there, because it actually wasn't 0, I went to the thousands place. So that's that row. Now for this next row, I'm going to do the same thing. So the second row, I'm going to highlight in blue up here. I'm dividing by the total of that row, which is 222. So take each one of those numbers divided by 222. So for example, for this first one, we're going to take 51 divided by 222. And I'm going to get 0.23 because it's 0.229. Okay, I'm going to pause the video again, fill in the rest of this row. So this is what I got for this row. And we're dividing by 222 for everything in that row. So therefore, this last number in the row is 222 divided by 222, which is 1. So for the conditional relative frequencies by row, that's what we have. I'm going to actually... down here, there really is not necessarily a meaning to filling in the rest of the chart. I should. So here the total is 450. So for this bottom part, we're dividing by 450. So take 100 divided by 450. Okay. So 100 divided by 450 is 0.22. Here it won't be true, or we can add the column to get that, because like 0.21 plus 0.23 is not 0.22. Here I'm going to take 131 divided by 450, and I get 0.29. Here 75 divided by 450, 0.1. 26 divided by 450, 0.06. 118 divided by 450 is 0.26, and then 450 divided by 450 is 1. So again, notice here that we can't like total the column to get the number under it like you can for relative frequencies on the first page. If you add these two numbers together, it does not equal 0.22, but this is how you would fill out the chart. You can also fill out the chart with percentages instead. I just chose not to, but that would be fine. 2 observations about the data. This is anything you want to say. So I'm not going to write them out right now. If you want to look at my notes key later, you can. You can write things down. So I would say something, maybe you can pick any number in this chart and just kind of describe it. So you could say 11% of the people, now be careful here because this is just divided by the total for males. So you could say 11% of males because we did it by row. So this means 11% of the males, not the total kids. 11% of males chose super strength as their favorite superpower. You could say 32% of males chose freeze time as their favorite superpower. Then if you want to reference the females, because the total here was just the females, so you'd say 31% of females chose telepathy as their favorite. 21% of females chose invisibility as their favorite. You have to be really careful because we divided by the row, not the total. So you're going to say of females or males. You can also do conditional relative frequencies by column. So what you do is you divide by the column total instead. So what you do is you take every number in the chart and you divide by the total of the column. So like 49, the total of that column is 100. So you would take 49 divided by 100, and that's what would go here, 0.49 by column. Here you would take 51 in that next spot and divide it by 100 because that's the total of that column. So it should be 0.51. Those are going to add to 1. Freeze time, do the same thing. So I'm going to pause this video. Now what we're doing is we're going to take 60 divided by 131, 70 divided by 131, and write them where they go. Okay, so there are those 2 numbers. So essentially you're just dividing each number by the total of the column. Columns are vertical, so they go this way, instead of by the row. I'm not going to fill out this whole chart right now because it is all filled out online on Google Classroom. As far as the observations here go, you want to say something about how it's a percentage of the people who chose that superpower. So this, for example, is 54% of the people who chose freeze time are males. 46% of the people who chose freeze time are females. 51% of the people who chose to fly are males. 49% of the people who chose to fly are females, etc. So just interpret like we did in the past. This page, it's just kind of making sure you understand all the vocabulary. So this is actually a really probably a great page to do to make sure that you understand everything. I'm going to do it really quick. So the marginal frequencies we talked about yesterday, that's just to add this total column on the bottom. So I'm going to add this total down here and over here. That's what marginal frequencies means. So I'm going to add something for the total. And we're just adding the numbers together. 124 plus 101, no dividing. This is what we did yesterday, is 225. 219 plus 236 is 455. 124 plus 219. 124 plus 219 is 343. 101 plus 236 is 337. Add those together. It shouldn't matter which way we add, like vertically or horizontally. So add this row or this column. You should get the same number. 225 plus 455 is 680. So 680 total people were surveyed. Relative frequencies, you have to remember what each one of these things are. Relative frequencies are you divide each number by the total. So we're going to divide everything by that 680. So I already know 680 divided by 680 is 1. Now you just got to take everything in this chart up here, every single thing, and divide by the total and put it in this chart. So 124 divided by 680 is 0.18. 219 divided by 680 is, I typed it wrong, 0.32. 343 divided by 680 is about 0.5. 101 divided by 680, 0.15. 236 divided by 680, 0.35. 337 divided by 680, 0.5. Either add this column or take 225 divided by 680, 0.33. 455 divided by 680, 0.67. Okay. Conditional frequencies is what we did today. So you divide by the column total or the row total. So for this first chart, you're going to take each number. So 124, for example, divide by the total of that column. So 124 divided by 225. Then 101 divided by 225. So 124 divided by 225 is 124 divided by 225 is 0.55. 101 divided by 225 is 0.45. That adds to 1. Then take 219 divided by the total of that column, which is 455, and I get 0.48. Then take 236 divided by 455, and I get 0.52. That adds to 1. Then take these divided by the total column, which is 680. 343 divided by 680 is 0.50. This is still going to be 0.5 because that's the total of the column. So this is 0.5. Oops, this is 0.5. One observation, remember we're dividing by the column total. So this means 45% of the people who said yes, they're majoring in a medical field, because it's this column. 45% who want to major in a medical field are seniors. 45% of students who want to major in a medical field are seniors. Okay, for lack of time in making this video, I'm gonna have to skip this next one. It's on Google Classroom, but you just divide by the row total instead. So it'd be 125 divided by 343, 219 divided by 343, etc. This last page is pretty important. We kind of already filled it out for you. If you want to know if there's an association, this is kind of the key word on this page. If there's an association, they'll tell you what they want the association to be between. So this is between gender and favorite superpower. You look at the conditional frequencies by column. So to see if there's an association, favorite superpower, gender and favorite superpower, you're just supposed to see if any of these categories are like way off. Like knowing that you're a male or female would kind of indicate whether or not you would want that superpower. So for example, super strength, the numbers are way like different from each other. 4 and 96, those are really far apart. So that indicates the fact that your gender does somewhat determine if you would want to have super strength. So you would just make a comment about that. Let's see here. This one's kind of off too. Females much prefer invisibility to males. They have a much higher number. So here I'm going to say yes, because the numbers are, if these numbers were all like kind of close to each other, so like 50, 50, 50, 50, you would say no. But here I'm going to say yes, because females have more of a chance of picking invisibility than males, and males have more of a chance of picking super strength than females. So you would just explain that. It's explained a little bit more on your notes. If they're asking if there's an association between age and sharing a computer, you have to take each one of these numbers divided by the total for that column, because that's the age total. So you'd take 40 divided by 50, and that would go point here, right there. 10 divided by 50 is 0.2. Take 47 plus 25, that would be 72. So take 47 divided by 72. You get about 0.65, etc. Keep filling out that chart. If the numbers are way different from each other, you say yes. And if not, you say no. So I think that's it. I want you to, at this point, just start working on the homework. Check out the notes on Google Classroom too. I can obviously answer questions tomorrow as well. Tomorrow we are just working on a quiz review for Friday's quiz. Spend the rest of this time starting your homework. Get as much done as you can, and then tonight if you want to look at these notes further on Google Classroom, you can. And I'll have an answer key up for the homework too, so we can just go over questions tomorrow. I will see you tomorrow.